discussion of the continuum framework, where we saw the velocity, density, temperature and pressure field, or what's the definition of those. We want to talk about quantities that will be used to characterize fluid flows. When we talk about fluid mechanics, we are interested in the description of fluid flows, and the word fluid flows, it has two aspects. One is whatever is related to the properties of the fluid. These are physical properties such as density, viscosity, surface tension, and vapor pressure. Well, these two we are going to discuss in this class extensively, whereas these two are something that you may encounter in future study, which I ask you to go through on your own. So those are the attributes of the fluid. When we talk about the flow has attributes like the velocity, pressure, acceleration, fields. That is, these are quantities that may vary from flow to flow, but this is the property of the fluid that is flowing. It could be water, air, mercury, whatever. Density, viscosity, surface tension and so on. And when we discuss this, we are going to deal with a lot of quantities, physical quantities, which are usually expressed as, like for example, if you are thinking about density and you want to state the density as 1000 kilogram per meter cube, if you look at this 1000 is the magnitude and this kilograms per meter cube is the unit. Okay. Now it is with practice in the physical sciences to express a quantity in terms of something that's a multiple of a unit. Like for example, if you define this length as 1 centimeter, whenever you refer to as 4.2 centimeters, what you are really meaning is a length that is 4.2 times 1 centimeter, or in other words, the length that you call as 4.2 centimeters is 4.2 times this length that is shown on the scale here. Okay, it's the same concept for 1 Newton of force or 1 kilogram of mass or 1 second of time. There is always a magnitude and a unit. Now the unit could be variable. Like for example, you could have, instead of a centimeter, you could have 1 inch or 1 foot or 1 mile or 1 kilometer. You could have different units, and each of these quantities have different lengths. Like for example, 1.6 kilometers makes 1 mile. So if you draw this to be 1 mile, the same length would also be 1.6 kilometers, or a kilometer would be only, or 1 kilometer would only be about this much. Okay, that's what we mean by different units, in that they express different repeating units. So the unit itself can be defined as a repeating reference quantity used to express measurements, used to express measurements. Okay, this is just a very colloquial definition, but the idea is a unit is used as a standard, as something like a repeatable measure. Okay, so we are talking about this unit, we are talking about the magnitude, and we want a system in which you can work with different types of units, you need some consistency between different unit systems. What do I mean by unit systems? There is the unit systems that we know of. The most common is the SI unit systems, which is also called metric. I'm sure you would have seen some of this in thermodynamics 1, and then the English engineering units. The SI system is usually based on the kilogram, the meter, and the second, and the English engineering units are usually based on the foot, pound, and time and second, foot, pound, second. Okay. So when we think of a quantity, like for example, you can pick three dimensions or three dimensions or quantities may be chosen to represent all other physical quantities encountered in mechanics. What are they? You could choose any three quantities, but it's very common to choose choose any three, but it's very common to choose mass, length, and time, t. We choose mass, length, and time, and once you choose these as your basic dimensions, you can express every quantity in terms of these. Example, velocity. What is velocity? It's length or distance per unit time. That would be length divided by time, that is t power minus 1. Or in other words, the dimension of velocity is length t power minus 1. Acceleration is velocity per unit time, or the dimension of acceleration would be Lt power minus 2. Velocity is Lt power minus 1. Okay. You can do this for every quantity that you encounter. So like for example, force is mass times acceleration, so the dimension of force would be m L t power minus 2. Work is force times displacement, so the dimensions of work would be mass length squared t power minus 2. What else? We can think of pressure or stress is force per unit area. That would be, what is force? Force is ml t power minus 2 divided by area. Area is a product of two length scales, so that would be ml t power minus 2 divided by L squared, or I can simply write this as ml power minus 1 t power minus 2. So what we are going to do, dimensions can be derived for all the quantities used in the description of fluid mechanics. We are going to do that, and we will do this as we You can derive it for energy, you can derive it for pressure, stress, shear stress, and so on. So this understanding of using mass, length and time, okay, the basic dimensions mass, length and time, plus the physical definition or laws, they can be used to derive dimensions for all the quantities that we will encounter in this course. Okay, that's something we are going to do. Now, coming back to our discussion on the properties of fluids, we were talking about density. We already saw a detailed discussion about the density of liquids and gases and how they are different. Density is usually expressed as rho with unit kg per meter cube. Okay. Common densities include density of water, that's about 1000 kilograms per meter cube. Density of air at 25 degrees Celsius and 1 atmosphere, this is approximately 1.2 kilograms per meter cube. Density of mercury is about 13,600 kilograms per meter cube. We also saw, by the way, what is the dimension of density? It's going to be mass, length power minus 3. Mass per unit volume. A volume is a product of 3 lengths, L cubed. Okay. This is one way of expressing density. Okay. We did see that density of liquids is usually a constant because liquids are often incompressible. Liquids are often incompressible, whereas density of gases changes with the pressure. We'll talk about what is pressure, but at least in a colloquial sense, or at least from thermodynamics 1, you know what is pressure. Okay, the density of gases change with pressure, making them compressible. Now, when I say the density of air at 1 atmosphere is about 1.2, the implication is it does have a pressure dependence and it's going to be different at different pressures. Okay. While it is common to think of liquid densities to be constant, the density of gases, they are often modeled based on the ideal gas law. Okay. Usually we apply the ideal gas law as a model to calculate the variation of density with pressure. And this ideal gas law, you know from thermodynamics, is P equals rho RT. Okay? It's valid for gases at low pressures and high temperatures. So what this equation tells you is that the pressure of a gas changes with density and temperature, and you cannot vary, you cannot keep all 3 fixed. If you vary 2 of them, the third is obviously going to change. That's one thing. The other is, you can also reason that if you have some liquid, let's say like water, if you apply a tremendous amount of force of compression to the water, the volume change that you can induce is extremely tiny, that it's almost negligible, it's almost zero. That's why we say the density change or the density is constant, making this water incompressible, or not just water, any usual liquid, oil, mercury. Same situation, if you have almost the same amount of mass of air and you subject compression force, the volume change for air is going to be much higher than the volume change for water, which was practically zero, making the density a function of pressure as given there, pressure over RT, and this is what makes the gas compressible. So what you need to remember is, in this course we'll mostly whenever we deal with liquids, we'll treat them to be incompressible, and whenever we treat gases, we will identify conditions in which the density is more or less constant. So gases are also gases at low compression can also behave as incompressible fluids. Okay, but whenever we need to calculate the density at a given pressure and temperature, we will use the ideal gas equation. We will use this equation or in this form. Okay. Now you need to be familiar with this equation, the assumptions that go behind it, for which you can refer your coursework on Thermo 1. Okay. What you need to remember though while using it is P equals rho RT. The temperature has to be expressed in Kelvin. Kelvin only. Okay, Kelvin only, and R is gas specific. It's the universal gas constant divided by the molecular weight of the gas. So that would be 8.314 joules per Kelvin per mole divided by the molecular weight in kilogram per mole. Okay, that's something you need to be mindful about when using the ideal gas equation. So to summarize about density, liquids are mostly incompressible, gases are compressible. We may encounter situations in which they behave like they are incompressible fluids, especially at low pressure. And in this course we'll mostly deal with incompressible flow scenarios. Compressible flow is for some other course in the future. Okay? And if you notice in general, lastly, density of liquids are usually much greater than the density of gases. 1000 for water, 1.2 for air. Okay? And density often is a function of temperature for both liquids and gases. This is something that is true. All material expands on heating. Liquid becomes less dense upon heating with higher temperature. Same is true with gases also. So it is a function of temperature in general. Okay.